20 with Hugh Downs and Barbara Walters.
They arrive in our country on Saturday. And tonight, for the first time on American television, the Prince and Princess of Wales talk about themselves.
I actually wanted to be a dancer, but I overshot the height by a long way.
I'm not interested in the occult or dabbling in black magic or any of these kinds of things.
Together, they put rumors to rest, talk about their public image, and show themselves to be quite the parents. A 2020 exclusive, a conversation with the Prince and Princess of Wales.
And when the royal couple visit Washington, it will be a whirlwind of parties and dinners. The city's aflutter. What are the preparations for England's royal couple? What are the do's and don'ts of royal protocol? Bob Brown goes behind the scenes of royal mania.
Also, with Prince Charles being a dedicated family man, this is royalty's most eligible bachelor. He's Monaco's Prince Albert, son of the late Grace Kelly. His family talks about him, and he talks about romance and about a special tribute to his mother. Tonight, Barbara talks with Monaco's Prince Albert. They're royalty, but we have come to know them as Charles and Di. And Saturday morning, they arrive here. She has been called one of the world's most glamorous women. Someday, he will be King of England. Well, because of the enormous interest in Prince Charles and Princess Diana, and because this is her first visit to the United States, 2020 has obtained a rare and exclusive interview that they granted to British journalist Alastair Burnett.
What we know of this royal marriage is based on little fact and lots of rumors. It has been said that Diana has turned from fair maiden into a nagging wife whose shopping sprees bankrupt the royal household. And according to some British gossips, Charles has become an eccentric, preoccupied with his diet and things of the occult. Well, the truth, it seems, as they told British television, is quite another picture.
Yes, 4 hands, 2 princes, and a piano. It's a photo session at Kensington Palace with the Prince and Princess of Wales and family.
I can't do a bit louder.
Of course you can.
I can't.
They think they're doing fine for the photographer Tim Graham, but let's get ready for a better shot.
Does he do that again, do you think?
What do you say?
One more kiss. One more kiss, please. Steady.
Go.
Stop doing it, Harry. You didn't mean to do it.
Hurry, hurry.
From father, a young pianist needs a cue on where to look.
William. Really? Right. Oh, right.
Henry standing was fine.
See.
In the drawing room at Kensington Palace, the Prince and Princess of Wales talk together about their life and work, their causes and interests and bugbears, and their family. It's quite a family time. Prince William's just off to school.
Your Royal Highnesses, everybody thought Prince William did terribly well when he set off to school, and you said to him, wave everyone goodbye, and then he just went away. Were you a little sad at that moment?
Well, I was, because it's opening another chapter in my life, and certainly William's. But he's ready for it. He's a very independent child. He's surrounded by a tremendous amount of grown-ups, so his conversation's very forthright. And as you saw, he's more than happy to go down those steps and join the other children. We do see a lot of children, but there's always this myth that William, being who he is, hardly ever sees a child. But I have 2 sisters that have with 5 children between them. And I have lots of friends who have children as well, so we get around.
And he really does enjoy it. I mean, what did he say to you that first day when he came home?
Well, he was just so excited by it all, and there was a tremendous spurt of conversation. If you could understand that, you could understand anything. He's trying to get it all out. But he just adores other children, and very much an organiser, which probably might be helpful in future years.
The world sees your partnership, the Prince and Princess of Wales, as a unique job. But what do you think the nature of your job really is?
Well, the difficulty is, of course, that I dare say other people may think differently from what we do. But I think the first and most important thing, really, is that it's not so much a job as a way of life. I think this is the essential feature of the whole thing. And I mean, I frequently read things saying, why doesn't he get a proper job, or something like that. And I honestly, personally believe that the whole way of one's life is part of the job. And one of the important things, I think, is that it is more than anything else the fact that one is trying to be ambassadors, I hope both of us, for this country. And the way I think we live our lives, in a sense, is also the role. But again, I don't think one can say too often that the particular position that I find myself in, and my wife, there is no actual laid down job or role. And you have to a certain extent, do as you think right and fit. It'd be quite easy to do nothing, in fact. So it's really just the way you feel that things should be done. And above all else, I think the important thing is to serve this country and its people and the Commonwealth.
But I do notice that one of your increasing interests seems to be jobs for young people and getting young people a start in a business life.
I been very much involved in this, really, I think, since those rather dreadful riots in Toxteth and elsewhere in 1981, which is the year we were getting married. And I thought rather seriously about things then, and got together some of the people in my trusts, and we worked out a scheme, because I felt very strongly that we ought to try and find a way of enabling young people in rather deprived parts of the country, in inner city areas and so on, to actually start their own enterprises, because I believe that there is a great deal of talent which lies underutilized. And with a grant of about £1,000, it's amazing what can be started. I went to give the thousandth of these grants to one of these young people from London.
At the other end of the scale, you had a meeting with some businessmen from Boston. What did you learn from them?
Well, this is one of those extraordinary occasions when, much to my amazement, the Americans have actually learned something from us. And they've started this thing called Jobs for Youth in Boston.
But ma'am, when you go out on your engagements, launching things and lunching people and so on, it is a great responsibility. But what do you feel your role is? What is your contribution?
I feel my role is supporting my husband, and whenever I can, and always being behind him, encouraging, and also, most important thing, being a mother and a wife. And that's what I try to achieve. Whether I do is another thing, but I did try.
But you are developing your own interests and your own specialization.
Yes, but that's taking time, because I don't want to dive into something without being able to follow it up. Nothing would upset me more than just being a name on a top of a piece of paper and not showing any interest at all.
You were struck first by the hospices, weren't you?
Yes.
What particularly, when you first went into one, what did you sense about it?
I'd always been led to believe that it was possibly an unhappy place, because patients went in there and not always did they come out. So it was fascination on one side and concern on the other. And certainly after I'd been around the first ward, I remember it so vividly. I was struck by the calmness coming out of the patients in their bed. And most of them will have gone by now, obviously. And it was confronting their illness. They were so brave about it and made me feel so humble.
Well, you know,
Don't look too near, you might get a shock.
I've seen enough photos of
I know, there's too many of those. We know about that. Yes.
And also Dr. Bernardo's with mentally handicapped children.
You see, I've got two very healthy, strong boys, and it's not always the case with the families I'm meeting through Dr. Bernardo's, and I realise how incredibly lucky I am. And I don't know how I could cope if I had a child that was handicapped or mentally handicapped in some way. So for me, I'm going out there to meet these children, and I'm learning all the time and trying to understand, trying desperately to understand how they cope.
Well, now, two questions that everybody will want to have answered. What do you say, Ma'am, when you read in the papers that you are a determined, domineering woman?
I don't always read that. I'm people very willing to tell me that. But I don't think I am. I'm a perfectionist with myself, but not necessarily with everybody else. And those stories arose a long time ago and have kept coming out again and again. But I don't think I am.
You feel hurt by them?
Well, obviously one does. You feel very wounded, and if it comes out, you think, oh, gosh, I don't want to go out and do my engagement this morning. Nobody wants to see me. Help, panic. But you've got to push yourself out and remember that some people hopefully won't believe everything they read about you, because there's far too much about me in the newspapers, far too much. It horrifies me when there's something more important, like what goes on in a hospice, or there's been a bomb or something. They'll put me on the front page.
But there is a natural and continuing interest in you. For example, have you actually tried to change Prince Charles in any way since you got married?
Not at all. I mean, obviously the one or two things, like maybe the odd tie or something, but nothing. Shoes. We won't go any further. But but nothing dramatic.
Now the other question is about the Prince and vegetarianism. Is that true, sir? Are you a vegetarian now?
I know I'm not a complete vegetarian, no, but I think I started to examine the things I ate slightly more carefully than I had done before, and became slightly more conscious of what I was eating, which I hadn't done. And I actually now don't eat as much meat as I used to. I eat more fish. But the point I think is very important about this is that the extraordinary thing that, in a sense, one should be accused of being in any way interested in vegetarianism. Because if you only ate meat and no vegetables, nobody would complain at all, which always seems to me rather illogical. But if somebody only eats vegetables or whatever and doesn't eat meat, then all hell seems to break loose. I've never quite understood this. I think the important thing, if you are going to change your diet in any way, is to make sure that it is adequately balanced. And in order to do that, you must either get proper advice or read the proper books and so on, because if you do it wrongly, you don't get the right intake.
Are you thinking of following in his footsteps?
Yeah, it's always been my own idea. I mean, I prefer fish than I do meat. But it's, I don't think I'm going dotty.
It doesn't cause any problems in the family. The children like what they get.
No, I mean, they you know, they can eat what they like.
Of course, some people say that you're so slim, you probably don't eat enough anyway.
Mm. When we go on an engagement, if it's a lunchtime one, we often have a buffet lunch so we can get around the enormous amount of people there sometimes are. So it's impossible to talk and eat at the same time. So you end up chasing a bit of chicken around the plate and never getting anything yourself. And by the time you get home, certainly there's no time, you're rushing off somewhere else. But I'm never on what's called a diet. Maybe I'm so scrawny, it's because I take so much exercise. I don't know.
And you keep up your swimming, do you?
Yes, I swim every day, sometimes twice a day, if I've got the time.
And do you have time to keep up your dancing?
Yeah.
We're always interested in that.
I actually wanted to be a dancer, but I overshot the height by a long way. I couldn't imagine some man trying to lift me up above his arms, but I do it once a week if I can, and it's combination of tap, jazz and ballet. And I really enjoy it enormously, and I think it's vital to switch off for 1 or 2 hours every week.
Now, do you have any sense of living in a state of rivalry with Princess Anne, as is said time and time and time again?
None at all. Princess Anne's been working incredibly hard for Save the Children Fund, and I'm her biggest fan, because what she crams into a day I could never achieve. And we've always hit it off very well, and I just think she's marvellous. And the story arose, obviously, because she wasn't chosen perhaps as a godmother for Harry, which had our child been a girl, the possibility was there, but Harry arrived, so we went to a man.
Do you think sometimes that newspapers, as is the way of life, build people up and then just as quickly knock them down?
Well, they do, but there again, it's their job, isn't it, really? I came in on the scene and I apparently could do no wrong, but it's quite interesting to see the niggly things that go on now that I apparently perhaps could be doing wrong. And I'm sure, I mean, I'm not asking to be perfect, I'm far from it, but I just like the chance and opportunity to get involved in my various areas that I've chosen without people talking about being a shopaholic or something. That's not important.
But it is true, if I may say, that this question of building people up onto a pedestal, and the moment that happens, along comes a separate brigade that, like knocking you off a pedestal. I mean, it's human nature, I suppose. So from that point of view, it's absolutely true what you said, I think, isn't it?
Definitely.
Well, on your pedestal, sir, there are people who say that some of your interests, say like alternative medicine, are mildly eccentric.
Oh, yes, I think I'm becoming more eccentric as I get older, probably. Well, clearly, something like, I prefer to call it complementary medicine, can easily be considered by people who don't think that it has any relevance at all as eccentric. I can understand that. But all I am concerned about is that complementary medicine or other ways of looking at the person, in other words, looking at the person not so much as a machine, but as a whole person, in the classic, ancient sense, is very important, and I don't think we should forget this aspect. And I also feel that there are certain aspects of complementary forms of medicine which can have a great deal of value and effect for certain ailments. And all I am making a plea for is a slightly more open-minded approach to this sort of thing than to just shut it off and say it doesn't exist, because there are plenty of cases, and for hundreds and hundreds of years, thousands of years, where such forms of medical treatment have worked. There's no doubt about it.
Does that extend to your interest in spiritualism, mysticism?
Well, yes, absolutely. Again, it's entirely, I think, I've been riveted by the way in which all this has developed, because I have seen articles shown to me saying that I play with Ouija boards, which I don't even know what they are. Literally, I've never seen one. I might as well say it, I might as well emphasize it, because I'm fed up with getting letters from people all the time saying, don't touch the Ouija boards, and it's bad for your health. What I find so annoying is that that it should be reduced again to this level of total absurdity. I'm not interested in the occult or dabbling in black magic or any of these kinds of things, or for that matter, strange sort of forms of mysticism. I am purely interested in being open-minded. I mean, after all, there are so many inventions and things that have happened and been proved scientifically in the past, which everybody totally poo-pooed before they were proven.
Now, ma'am, a question of clothes and your clothes. So much attention public attention is focused on them, and so important to the fashion industry in this country. How much time do you have to give to your clothes?
Not as much as perhaps people think. My clothes are not my priority. I enjoy bright colours, and my husband likes to see me look smart, presentable. And I mean, fashion isn't my big thing at all. Obviously, if I'm helping the fashion industry and helping the British side of things, well, that's marvellous. But I never tried to do that. And I do think there's too much emphasis on my clothes.
But going away to Australia and the United States, that must involve quite a bit of work.
Well, it was like when we first went on tour after we got married. I mean, I'd had not the capacity of clothes. I mean, I had to buy endless new things, of course, because I just didn't have them, because on a tour you change 3 or 4 times a day. You can, sometimes. And obviously I had to buy new things, and that was the problem. The arrival of all the new clothes were causing tremendous criticism. But what else could I do? I couldn't go around in a leopard skin something, I don't know. I had to produce something that was decent.
Do you take his advice?
Absolutely, but I mean, I ask him, but if this looks right or that looks right. But the chances of turning up in what he says is absolutely nil.
She asked me, you see, which one do I wear? I said, why did you wear that one?
Okay, and the other one.
Turns out it's something else. Why do you ask me?
Have you ever been to the United States before?
No, I've never have. No, it's great excitement there.
So what are you expecting to see? What are you looking forward to?
Well, I go with an open mind. Much the easiest.
It's full of your long-lost American cousins, isn't
Yes,
it?
there's quite a few of them around.
You will meet a lot of long-lost cousins.
Yes.
And these are great occasions which you take part in, which you know other people enjoy, and yet say when you go abroad, you have to leave the children behind now.
Yes.
Is that a wrench?
Terrible wrench, obviously. But they must have a stable life as much as we can give, and obviously taking them around the world isn't that. But they're very well looked after here, and we miss them dreadfully, but we're coming back to them, so.
And coming back is perhaps the best part of the day.
Of course it is, yes. Very much so.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That's that. Prince William thinks that's quite enough.
Hey! Why do feet?
Make funny faces over there.
Feet.
Why should I do this?
And Nanny Barnes brings in Prince Harry for the picture.
Harry. Harry can stand up now. Why don't you take William, take Harry's other hand. William, you take Harry's other hand.
Okay, here we go. That's fine. And
You want to look at him over there?
But you can't control all of the people all of the time.
Come on, Harry, go get him.
can I go back to maybe just the 2 of you, just for a moment? I think if you'd still be facing the prince for me. That's...
Will you show Harry how to play the piano?
You can't play it with him, go on.
Can't play.
Here we...
Shall we play it again, Harry?
That's lovely.
Try playing the piano.
Right, fine, thank you.
You've
now
got
we're
to
going
try
to
do the piano.
Sebastian, I need some room.
Okay.
Harry, what are you doing over there?
You go and get Harry, because I can't do it. It's too heavy.
Harry, not
we can
yours,
see more.
Harry.
Hey!
So if you could turn slightly towards me, I'm just trying to avoid a light in the window behind.
Harry,
What's on his head?
Harry, no. He's trying to do my hand off. Harry, stop doing ow. Harry.
Look. Sit him on your shoulder.
Harry. Hey! Barbara! Look!
Gotcha. Be careful. Don't pull it too hard.
Harry!
Now look.
What's that, William? A bus, is it? Oh, what's that? Is that a present?
Knock, knock.
Under the tablecloth, someone won't stir.
Come on, let's quickly. I'll show you something. Come out, I'll show you something. Hurry, hurry, look.
Oh, she wants some. Ask if we can have some powder. She wants some powder.
Now, Mother may need a little powder for her picture. Better test it first.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah? Go sit with Mommy now. See, look. Quickly, quickly, quickly. Look. Bring it over here.
Do you know they're taking pictures out in the rain, too?
Only a little bit.
No, it's not. Yes, look.
No, it's not.
Look.
Do you want to sit in?
Yeah.
Did you want William to sit here as well?
Yes, I'd like that if I could. What I'd quite like to do is both the young...
Won't we ever be rid of the television people?
You know, remembering your interview with Prince Charles a while back.
Last year, yeah.
Yes. This one we saw was informal and everything, but he let his hair down more, it seemed to me, when he was talking to you.
I think he was more introspective. You know, they weren't supposed to do any interviews at all, and they've done none with the American press. But I think what happened is that there's been so much criticism about the couple that they decided to do this to specifically answer a lot of the criticism. So maybe the guard was up a little more. Weren't those children just enchanting?
Yeah, the kids are adorable.
They don't need interviews, just send the kids around.
Interesting to watch them. Well, next on this special edition of 2020, if you were hosting Charles and Diana, how would you get ready? Well, some Washington hosts are in a tizzy preparing for their royal guests. Bob Brown tells of royal mania right after this.
Of 1812 has Washington felt so British? The royal couple isn't going to set fire to the Capitol, but they will light up the town. Anticipation hasn't given way to panic, but it's coming close to that. The hosts of various functions are charged with overseeing every detail. I mean, should it be the pink napkins with lace, or will the white ones do? And what about that puff pastry? Will it suit royal palates? These are very serious decisions. Bob Brown looks at some of the regal do's and don'ts.
A few years before our capital city was founded, there once were some Americans who were so suspicious of royalty that they wrote into our Constitution, "No title of nobility shall be granted by the United States." So, in a country constitutionally deprived of royalty, you might place the visit of Charles and Diana in the category of foreign aid. The social arena that will receive the Prince and Princess, there's already been a kind of preview of things to come. These people turned out last week for a dinner for 300 at Washington's Ritz-Carlton Hotel. There, they could practice the proper etiquette with an advance guard of British nobility, owners of England's magnificent 7 stately homes.
My lords, ladies and gentlemen, dinner is served. Thank you.
Although we do attempt to speak the same language, it apparently doesn't hurt to emphasize a friendly toast with simultaneous interpretation.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and join me in a toast to the Queen. The toast is the Queen.
When Charles and Diana arrive to receive toasts to the royal family in person, the guest list of Americans who will attend those functions is limited and already full, but it doesn't discourage people from trying to get on. For instance, the Prince and Princess will attend an exhibit called The Treasure Houses of Britain here in Washington's National Gallery. Gallery director Carter Brown will also host a dinner here.
We never knew how many friends we had. We found that people were hinting in one way or another they'd like to be invited. I had a birthday recently, and I never knew how many people were interested in sending me birthday cards.
Those in Washington society who were somehow omitted from the invitation cards may find they can still manage an entree with a JCPenney credit card on November 11th. That's when the Prince and Princess will visit this suburban penny store, where they will find the employees already well-versed in protocol.
For British subjects, bowing and curtsying is normal practice. For Americans, it's entirely optional. Please do not touch the royal couple. It's considered poor etiquette and, more importantly, raises serious security concerns.
The penny chain is staging a Best of Britain sales promotion this year, and Charles and Diana will be there for the sake of trade. On November 12th, the entourage will move on to Palm Beach, Florida, one of the most affluent communities in the country, where it takes a heap of royalty to impress the guardians of the social fortress already in place.
It's maybe the event of October and the event of November. It's not the event of the year.
Princess Di this and Princess Di that. If I hear any more about Princess Di, I think I'll go out and die myself.
There's been some agitation here because the scheduled dinner at the Breakers Hotel, to be hosted by industrialist Armand Hammer, is principally to raise money for a charity that is not a local cause, the United World Colleges, of which Prince Charles is international president. And besides, according to Agnes Ash of the Palm Beach Daily News, a society paper, people who were not invited have to find other things to do.
Well, they've never been publicly miffed, but you can understand that they're miffed when they say, I'm going on a cruise, or I am going to New York that weekend, or my husband is having his gallbladder out. Something like of that sort. You don't get miffed in public.
Those who do go will contribute from $10,000 to $50,000 to attend. And if there is consolation for the uninvited, it may be that the invitations themselves just weren't done with the usual Palm Beach style.
They feel that it's not socially correct, the invitation. It was a rather inexpensive printing job, and there were so many things to return. You could sign whether or not you wanted a room reservation. Well, after all, this isn't a convention. I mean, Prince Charles isn't going to walk into the Breakers wearing a convention badge. You know that.
But while social conventions are being tested by Americans preparing for the visit, things are well under control at the British Embassy in Washington, where Charles and Diana will stay for the first 4 nights.
Now, the big $64 question is, do I have ecru table napkins or a peach table napkin?
Housing royalty here is predictably down to a tasteful, familiar science. No extra servants will be needed. And in case any Americans need to brush up on the most basic of all lessons in protocol, here it is from the woman who will play host to the royal couple, Lady Marjorie Wright, the wife of the British ambassador.
Well, it's a big deal that they are coming to stay in this house, and as I say, we're having our future king to stay with us. But we are geared to having visits. I mean, we've had most of the royal family stay in this house while we've been here. As I said before, you know, you do make quite sure all your doorknobs are polished, and everything that's white is white. You know, the joke, when you have a royal visit, if it moves, salute it. If it doesn't, paint it white.
You know, I'm amazed at our reverence for royalty now, when an earlier America, you know, our shirt sleeves democracy of the 1800s was much more informal about it. I remember once when Granville Stewart, the cattle baron, entertained Prince of Wales, who was to become Edward VII. He introduced him to his cowhands by saying, boys, meet the prince. Prince, this is the boys.
I think to a certain extent the way we treat royalty reflects our own times. Obviously now there's a lot of formality, a lot of pomp and circumstance in Washington. One of my favorite anecdotes was Edward VIII when he visited the United States during the Roaring '20s, and there was less media scrutiny. He apparently had the opportunity to visit a rather notorious speakeasy run by Texas Guinan, a hostess. And it was raided the night he was there, so the story goes. And Texas Guinan rushed him into the kitchen, gave him a chef's hat and a skillet, and said, here's the eggs, keep cooking till it's over.
Thank you, Bob. Barbara?
It does seem to be a different atmosphere now with people deciding whether or not to do curtsy. That's a big decision. And while we are talking about royalty, who is the most eligible bachelor in Europe? We know why it's not Prince Charles, and it's not his younger brother, Prince Andrew, or Prince Edward, Well, here is his picture. If you are young, female, and single, or just curious, stay with us, and you'll find out who he is right after this.
Caroline and Stephanie get the headlines, but Prince Albert is the heir apparent. How do they get along? And what's life like in the Royal Palace? A Barbara Walters interview. Prince Albert, when 2020 continues.
Most eligible bachelor in Europe is almost unknown outside of his family, which is amazing considering that his mother was Grace Kelly and his father is Prince Rainier of Monaco. And it's more surprising because his two sisters, Princess Stephanie and Princess Caroline, seem constantly to be in the headlines. Their brother, the heir to the throne, has been in the shadows. Well, things are changing for 27-year-old Prince Albert. This week, New York Harbor greeted the first boats in the Monaco-New York Ocean Race, which was the first of its kind, and it's all Prince Albert's idea. And last Sunday, he accompanied the royal family to Los Angeles for a gala to benefit the Princess Grace Foundation. So who is this Prince Albert? Why is he such a catch? Barbara went to Monaco to find out.
Monaco, the European capital of luxury and glamour, sits on the fabulous Côte d'Azur. It is known the world over for its fashionable balls, its luxury gambling casino, a far cry from the Las Vegas Strip, and its harbor filled with the world's most spectacular yachts, its Grand Prix race, and its royal family, including the man Life magazine called Europe's most eligible bachelor, 27-year-old, shy, and hardly recognizable Prince Albert. He inherited that title when Lady Diana married the Prince of Wales and took him out of the running. Mind you, England's Prince Andrew has gotten his own share of bachelor talk, but because Albert is a direct heir to the throne and Andrew is not, Monaco wins the royal dating game. You are now 27.
Mm-hmm.
I have to ask you that question you must be so sick of. You know what it is?
Yes, I'm ready.
Why don't you ask it and answer it? The question is, what about marriage? Okay. The answer is?
The answer is, I don't know. The answer is you'll have to wait a few years. I don't know.
Have you ever been in love?
Yeah.
Did you want to marry the person when you were in love?
I don't think so.
Are there any do's and don'ts that are implicit because you are a prince who will rule a country?
Well, yes and no. I mean, I hope I'll be able to make my own choice and my own decision, but I can't just marry anybody off the street, of course.
Can you marry a commoner?
Well, I think so. I think other people have done it.
Mm-hmm. Your father did it?
Yes, absolutely.
His father married Grace Kelly, a Catholic girl from Philadelphia, and in a country that's largely Catholic, religious preference is still an issue. Can you marry someone not of your religion?
That's a very tricky question. I think we'll have to see. I'm sure it is possible.
Can you marry someone who's been divorced?
Probably not.
Although neither Albert nor his father, Prince Rainier, has set a date for Albert to assume power, it is Albert who will someday be the ruler of Monaco. And it is he who will reside in the 200-room royal palace. Many of the rooms, including the throne room, are open to the public for daily tours. But the royal family allowed our cameras inside some of the private areas of the palace. This is La Salle de Garde, the guard's room. It's filled with pictures of powerful family friends. There are popes, princes, and presidents. The official portrait of Princess Grace dominates La Salle de Glace. This exquisite room is often used for diplomatic functions. And it is from this room that the royal family makes its balcony appearances to the public. Should Prince Albert marry but have no male heirs, the Principality of Monaco would become incorporated with France. So when and to whom Prince Albert will marry is constant speculation for the press. It may be Monaco's biggest controversy because Monaco itself is a country without controversy. It has no foreign debt, no unemployment, no personal taxation, lots of allies, and no enemies.
We don't deal in issues that really raise international problems, and we like to keep it that way.
Do you ever feel funny in this day and age that there is a monarchy?
I think there is room for everything in our world, and monarchy, if done in the right way, works well. I don't see where there shouldn't be.
The whole country of Monaco covers only 3/4 of a square mile. That's smaller than the campus of Princeton University, the Los Angeles airport, or the Pentagon. Does Monaco have any political influence?
I don't think we have. We've managed to gain a lot of prestige over the years, and we're very well recognized around the world, but I don't think we have the political power of a great nation. I don't think we're seeking that right now.
That couldn't have been Mrs. Thorwald, or I don't know women.
Of course, most of the prestige and glory of Monaco is because Princess Grace had been so famous in her own right. Monaco still grieves for her. Since Princess Grace's death 2 years ago, Prince Albert has taken over her office in the palace and many of her official functions. But when Albert was born, he began a lifetime of training for the throne. Is it difficult knowing that you have no career choice? I mean, this is it.
It was very hard for me, and it's kind of hard for me to motivate myself in certain areas. I guess I'm so used to it by now that it doesn't affect me anymore. But I mean, some things are very interesting and very worthwhile. But a lot of the time, it's pretty. I don't want to say the word boring, but.
But boring. Yeah. When you were a little boy, what were your dreams? What did you want to be?
When I was very young, I wanted to be a cowboy.
After graduating from Amherst College in America, Prince Albert joined the French Navy. He worked for an advertising agency and a major New York law firm. Because he's an avid sportsman himself, his favorite official duties have to do with sports. He plays soccer and tennis. He windsurfs. He skis. He drove in the African auto race from Paris to Dakar, and he's on the International Olympic Committee. Isn't anyone in the family worried that the heir to the throne is skiing where he might break a leg and going across Africa in a racing automobile? I mean, doesn't somebody say to you, enough already?
There was some concern, and I just said, well, I'm still young to do this kind of thing, so better be now than later. Sir.
And now he is heading a Monaco to New York sailing event, which he announced in New York at a press conference with Mayor Koch.
In exchange for what you have given us, we hope to thank and honor you in an equally grand manner. For America has given Monaco what I think is one of its greatest treasures, my mother, Princess Grace.
A tribute to his mother, to whom he bears a great resemblance. But the more recognizable members of the family are his two sisters, 28-year-old Princess Caroline and 20-year-old Princess Stephanie. Princess Caroline, how would you describe your brother?
My brother, he was always a much better little boy than I was a little girl as children. And he has all the qualities a brother could have, although I wanted to wring his neck when I was about 9, but...
We've always been very close to each other. Even when we were kids, we were always hanging around together and always getting up to mischief, I guess, sometimes.
Albert has had the difficult position of being between two girls. So he's had the shooting has come from both sides. And it's been quite difficult for him to sort of develop himself with an elder and a younger sister. But he has great patience, I think a lot of philosophy. He knows how to handle the situations. He is maybe too nice. I would reproach him. He doesn't know how to say no enough.
You know what your father said when we were talking to him? He said, if you have any fault, it's that you're too nice. Do you think that you're tough enough?
I think I can be tough when the need arises. I just haven't had the occasion of expressing that.
Has your father given you any advice in choosing a wife?
Very little. I mean, he's trusting me that I will make that right choice.
What are you looking for? What would be the ideal woman?
I don't know if there is an ideal woman. I think one of the most important qualities that I see is to be intelligent and to have a good sense of humor. And then, well, of course, it comes beauty, but I think she'll have to be fairly strong character to withstand a lot of the pressures here.
It sounds a lot as if you're describing your mother.
Well, yeah, she was a remarkable lady, and I'm just very proud to be her son.
I teased you earlier about what your father had said and saying that if you had any faults, you were too nice. That's a lovely fault to have.
Well, thank you.
He is certainly a good-looking young man, even if he is shy. He shouldn't have any trouble, though, finding a wife.
He does not. I mean, in spite of the fact that he's shy, he has lots of beautiful women around him. I saw him at a party in New York with a marvelous-looking blonde. Wouldn't it be interesting if the next time he's in California, he meets a beautiful starlet, brings her back to Monaco, and history repeats itself?
Just what his father did.
Just what his father did.
With Princess
And
Grace.
it wouldn't be the worst thing for Monaco.
Yeah, no, that's true. And
nice
later on, we might be able to tell you that Monaco needs something of that kind for a reason we'll get to in a moment. We will be right back.
Laws of royal succession, that is, who inherits the throne, are so interesting. As we pointed out in Monaco, if there isn't a male heir, the country goes back to France. What would have happened if Princess Grace and Prince Rainier had 3 daughters instead of Prince Albert?
Right. And we know what will happen if Prince Albert doesn't produce a male heir.
Back to France. Goes the principality.
That's right. Also, did you ever think that when a woman can be a reigning monarch, as is the case in England, her husband is not the king, he's the prince consort?
That's right.
You know?
That's right,
where,
Prince Philip, sure.
Where a man is king, his wife is the queen. What does that mean?
I don't, somebody figured this all out a long time ago, and that's the way it stays, I guess.
That's tradition. Right. Well, right now we have a word about tonight's Nightline.
Hugh, coming up on Nightline, did Washington destroy a Soviet sailor's attempt to defect to America? With the Soviet ship still in a U.S. port, there are charges. The State Department and Immigration Service have mishandled the entire affair. Barbara?
That's Nightline, following your local news. And that's 2020 for tonight. We're in touch, so you be in touch. I'm Barbara Walters.
And I'm Hugh Downs.
And for all of us here at 2020, good night.